The invention of writing, perhaps around 3400 BC, is traditionally taken to mark the watershed between prehistory and history. Writing enabled many ancient civilizations to acquire distinctive, immortal voices that still speak to us today in a way that other artifacts cannot. Whether engraved in stone inscriptions, impressed into clay tablets, or inscribed on dried animal skins, or papyrus, or tree bark, the words of peoples long vanished from the face of the earth still evoke in us fresh sensations of wonder and fascination as we contemplate them in our own time, and something more besides, the shock of recognition, of ancestral kinship, of spiritual resonance. Somehow, we believe we can understand what moved them, what drove them, what mattered to them. Somehow, we feel those words were ghostly adumbrations of ourselves, and that had those people never lived, we would be less real, less authentic, less secure in our own humanity. Behind and long before all writing lies something even more basic, and that, of course, is language itself, the vocalization of so many aspects and elements of who we are. The masters of the tongue or of the implement, stylus, quill pen, ballpoint, or word processor, those rare virtuosi of language all share one special quality. They all possess a magnificent ability to fashion, to compose, to marshal their thoughts in an astonishing flow of meaningful self-expression. These masters' words strike us with unusual force, with an irresistible impetus of persuasiveness and cogency and truth. Yes, that's how it must be. It couldn't be any other way. Yes. Listen for a moment, then, to the language of some of these deathless masters. I came, I saw, I conquered. Julius Caesar, 47 BC. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. In Him was life, and that life was the light of men. This light shines in the darkness, but the darkness has not understood it. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That's from the Gospel of John, about AD 100. Man is born free, yet is everywhere in chains. One man thinks himself the master of others, but he remains more of a slave than they are. Jean-Jacques Rousseau wrote that in The Social Contract, 1762. With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow and his orphan, to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. That's from President Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, 4th of March, 1865. Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in God's good time the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and liberation of the old. That was Prime Minister Winston Churchill's speech before the House of Commons, 4th of June, 1940. This is the philosophy of the National Socialists. When for years they have deceived the world and masked falsehood with plausibilities, can anyone be surprised that they continue the habits of a lifetime in this dock? Credibility is one of the main issues of this trial. Only those who have failed to learn the bitter lessons of the last decade can doubt that men who have always played on the unsuspecting credulity of generous opponents would hesitate to do the same now. It is against such a background that these defendants now ask this tribunal to say that they are not guilty of planning, executing, or conspiring to commit this long list of crimes and wrongs. If you were to say of these men that they are not guilty, it would be as true to say there's been no war, there are no slain, there's been no crime. That was from the Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Robert H. Jackson's closing arguments for conviction of Nazi war criminals before the International Military Tribunal at Nuremberg, 26th of November, 1946. Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans, born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world. Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, in order to assure the survival and the success of liberty. That was President John F. Kennedy's inaugural address, 20th of January, 1961. And when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." Of course, that was the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous "I Have a Dream" speech, 28th of August, 1963. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Astronaut Neil Armstrong, broadcasting from Tranquility Base on the Moon, 20th of July, 1969. Memorable words indeed. If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth. The price for this freedom at times has been high, but we have never been unwilling to pay that price. That was President Ronald W. Reagan's first inaugural address, 20th of January, 1981. So in those cadences and essences and thousands more, we glimpse the highest purpose of language itself. Above and beyond the necessities of everyday need, beyond any occasion of solemn or tender recall, even beyond what we might say in our own great moments of testing, our words can communicate the truths that ground us, the aspirations that lift us, and the visions that direct us. So language matters immensely. What you say or write and how you say it are not trivial considerations. In the following parts of this introduction, I'll be dealing explicitly with the topics of writing, grammar, critical reading, and vocabulary as they appear in the context of standardized college admissions testing in the United States.